Welcome to the Book Party Podcast. Join us as we journey into the world of books with Michael T. Prepare to be captivated by engaging interviews, insightful discussions, and fascinating stories. You'll discover new adventures and gain insight into the creative process of the authors themselves as they share their struggles and accomplishments. Now let's hear from Michael T.
This is Michael T. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Book Party Podcast, where we delve deep into the stories and insights that shape our lives. Today, we have a genuinely remarkable guest with us, Dave Nordel. Dave is not only a retired United States Air Force Command Chief Master Sergeant, but also an accomplished author, mentor, and leader. Dave's latest book, When the Cows Lie Down, When People Quit You, Their Leader, is a profound exploration of life, leadership, and the importance of recognizing the subtle signs of the guide your journey. With a background that spans the globe, from Saudi Arabia to South America, and over 30 years of service, Dave brings a wealth of experience and wisdom. But Dave's story doesn't start in the military. It begins in the rural heart of Northern California, where he grew up in a dairy farming family. At 19, he left home to join the Air Force and embarked on a journey that would see him rise through the ranks to become the senior enlisted leader for all nuclear missile forces in the United States. Dave is not just a decorated combat medic with a Bronze Star and the Legion of Merit to his name. He's also a dedicated emergency manager who has led city government activities and large organizations through the most challenging situations, including the ongoing battle against COVID-19. Dave's first international best-selling book, Giving Back: Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone and Beyond, showcased his extraordinary journey and leadership principles. And now, in his latest work, he invites us to discover our hidden potential, embrace personal growth, and gain insights from the unlikeliest sources, animal instincts and behaviors. When the Cows Lie Down is more than just a book. It's thought-provoking, exploration, time, success, and the importance of savoring each moment. Dave challenges us to respond to the subtle signs of burnout, to challenge conventional notions of productivity, and to live life with wisdom and purpose. So whether you're seeking personal growth or aiming to be a more effective leader, Dave Nordel's storytelling will equip you with the tools to navigate life's complexities. Get ready to embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery and embrace the power of slowing down to change your life. Without further ado, let's welcome the incredible Dave Nordel to the Book Party Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for an enlightening conversation with Dave Nordel as we explore the wisdom within when the cows lie down. So, Dave, why don't you take it from here, fill in the blanks a bit, and tell our listeners about yourself.
Well, Mike, you covered an awful lot. You talk about the book, and the book's got a nice cow on the cover. But I want to take a moment to reflect, because today and we didn't plan this, but today, 30 years ago today, I was sitting on a ramp in Dover, Delaware, waiting to marry up with a C-5 to take me to Mogadishu, Somalia. And if you know, today is the Black Hawk Down Day, all the way through the 3rd and 4th of October. So 30 years ago today, I was on my way, and 3 days after that happened, I actually landed there as the sole independent duty medic for the Air Force on the airfield. And my next door neighbors were the Task Force Rangers guys and the Army guys. So, Mike Durant was still a hostage at that time. My mission when I went in there was, day-to-day ops and medical treatment and care for people in the absence of a physician. But it quickly turned to recovery ops for Mike Durant and his hostage situation. So this time of year is always, as a veteran, and one part of my military service, this time of year is always kind of draws me back to a lot of fundamentals and storytelling and the things that go into that. So a little bit of irony there, especially sitting with a paratrooper and an army, an army buddy and a the veteran battle buddy. And And, we all share the same foxhole at some level. I always tell people if I ever had an Army patch, it would be a 10th Mountain patch because I spent more time with those guys around the world. And they were always short of medic. So I kind of got drug in on that stuff and never minded it. It was good. But that intro, Mike, might be the best intro that anybody has ever done for me. So I'm glad it's recorded because I'm going to give that to somebody and say, this is a great intro. Hey, growing up on the farm, is magical. I got asked the other day, what is the one thing about growing up on the farm that you've taken through your whole life and it took you through your leadership journey? And I thought it was a great question. And I had to think on my feet a little bit. And what I came down to was that from the time you're a kid, if you're in a farm environment, you start to learn everything there is to learn about life, which is the magical piece, right? Life, death, tragedy, triumph, tribulation, Mother Nature intervening in things in good and bad ways. And there's always something to do. But I think the number one thing that you get out of that is you're automatically, from the day that you get integrated into that work environment, you're automatically responsible for something and someone else. And so you don't have a lot of time to be selfish. If you're selfish on a farm, things don't get done. You don't have a lot of time to put yourself first, and you're always kind of in that mode. And I think that served me really well, especially in my later years when I got into, when I got into senior leadership positions, senior NCO positions, from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, you always put in your case, soldiers, you're always putting your soldiers and airmen first. And you got to make sure that that's taken care of before you can do the other things. So leaders eat last. And in both books, I try to take you through a little farm story that actually correlates to leadership, and some of it's military and some of it's just core things to drive people back to be introspective on the basics. And so that's when the cows lie down as a farm phenomenon. Scientists have tried to disprove it and say it doesn't really mean anything. It's just a one-off. I don't know. Every time the cows were lying down in one bunch and probably around some small tree that seemed inappropriate, if I didn't pay attention to what was going on with the weather and around me, I usually got caught in a bad situation. So I believe that organizationally and in life, we have a lot of instances where cows are lying down and we just miss the subtle signs because we're going 1,000 miles an hour.
Well, I want you to take us on your publishing journey. Sure. And on that journey, and even from your first to now, did you ever go the self-publishing route or always find an agent and go the agency route or somewhere in between, like a hybrid publisher? Take us on your publishing journey and how you did that.
Good question. So when I started down the road, I had a young lady who actually worked for me and I had been mentoring that had just finished a book, and she sent me her book and I looked at it. She had self-published and I thought, okay, well, let's see how hard this is. And I went down the Amazon route and I started to mess with the things that it takes to self-publish. And I quickly felt a little bit out of my league. I thought, boy, I do not want to publish a book and have it be a learning experience. Because anytime you have a learning experience, if you go back, if you do it and go back a year, you go, I've done this different, this different, this different, that different. So I wanted some quality. And locally, I had a friend here that was writing a book, totally different genre, but writing a book. And I asked her what she was going to do, and we kind of talked about it. So we decided to pick a publisher. And we picked a publisher that is, it's known worldwide, but affordable. And it turned out to be a disaster, Mike, because once you step into the publishing world, what you'll find out about is they really don't care about the words in your book. They don't care about the emotions. You're attached to it, especially writing a book like I have. Both these books are very personal. And there's stuff in When the Cows Lie Down that talks about a lot of failure and talks about PTSD and moral injury. There's some tough stories in both books. There's tough stories. And it took years to be able to get to a point where I could write them. Publishers don't care about that. They care about punctuation. They care about editing. They care about what the cover looks like. They're marketing people. And they're marketing the book because, in my first experience, they take a god-awful amount of the money that goes along with the book. I don't think anybody like me writes a book to get rich on the book. This is not a Tom Clancy thing. You write the book so that you have some foundational authority so people can read about it because of the other work that we do. And we'll talk a little bit about that, some things I'm doing with the consulting company. But so I quickly found out that I needed to unwind from that. And so I published a second edition of the first book. It's got a different cover on it with a publisher that has expertise in using self-publishing. So this is the hybrid piece, and I don't think people know about this. This is probably the most affordable way to get it done right the first time. And my company is called Finish the Book. And there's a lady named Susie that walks you through this stuff, and you feed her the information that you need in the book. She gets the editing done. She gets the artwork done. She works through those things. You agree upon things as they go along. But that back end, it's just like building a computer program. That back end piece that would drive most people crazy. In fact, if you're writing a book, you're probably not interested in how to publish it because it takes a piece. That all gets sorted out, and then on the other end, they're not interested in how much money the book makes. They're not interested in the marketing piece or anything, or stamping their name all over it, or making, selling it in 17,000 countries. My publisher now is interested in making my product as consumable as possible for readers. They have expertise in that. So where my emotion I got into a tangle because they wanted to change the title of some of the chapters. Not the chapter, but the title. And I said, but I wrote the title for a reason. And they said, do you want the title to make you happy, or do you want the title to catch the reader's eye? Because we're not changing anything. So I had to take a deep breath, settle down, work with the professionals. They're very professional. And out comes this wonderful book without all the tangles that go along with it. So, if you're looking for a recommendation, if you're really good with computer stuff, you're very patient, you really want to do it yourself, you want to do it at, bargain, basement, budget, low budget stuff, and you want to put a book out, Amazon and a couple other platforms. But Amazon has the tools for you to do that by yourself. But the formatting and those type of things you have to fight with, and how to get it published on the line. Sometimes when they publish online, it's a little wonky, and you have to go back and do those things. So my recommendation is just to do this hybrid approach, or this modified approach.
Well, I'll tell you right now, from the interviews that I do, and I do a lot of them, more and more and more authors are getting away from traditional publishing for a couple of reasons. Number one is because of the cost.
Sure.
But basically, the book is not theirs anymore.
Right.
They're, like you said, they don't care about the words in the book, so they change everything. They don't care what you say. They want to say what they want to say. And, the author will go, well, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not what I'm trying to say. Well, they don't care. They just want to change it, for what they want. So they're getting away from it. Have you thought about Audible?
I need to, and people push me. My thing with these two books, here's my kind of showstopper on that. I have shared some things in this book with the world that it took me 10 years to share with my kids. My kids read the first book and they said, do you know how much stuff is in here, Dad, that we didn't know about? And I said, I know. It's time for you to know now. You didn't need to know this at 13, but now you're 28. You're okay. And, we can have that conversation. So reading it drives emotion, and, you have to go back and read it. It has to be smooth when you're working with the Audible folks. So I just need to get in the right mindset, which isn't hard, but I just need to get there. I need to get in the right mindset and get with the right person that will help me publish Audible. But I highly recommend it because a lot of people, I consume books Audible. I do a lot of walking in the morning. I try to keep myself in motion. You and I talked a little bit about being disabled and the things that go along with that. And so my physical stuff. And so I listen to Audible.
I kind of did my own little study on it. And the way it's looking is that within the next 2 years, let's talk maybe even, by 2025, audio is going to overtake print completely. You're going to be, it's just the lifestyle that people have, from driving to walking to jogging to, nobody wants to sit in the recliner anymore with a cup of coffee and read a book. People are listening a lot more. And even the ebooks on tablets and stuff, they'd rather do it audio, so audio is going to overtake it. So I found a company where I'm taking my books and going to be doing the audio version of my 3 that I have now, and the 4th one that I'm getting ready to, not quite done with it, but because I'm doing a series of 4 books and I've got
Sure.
3 finished. So I'm going to do the audio on those, but I'm going to go ahead, it saves a little bit of money, but I'm going to go ahead and do the narration myself. So, I'm set up for it. I have the equipment for it. So I'm going to do the narration myself of those 3 books. So, it's just I found a good company to do it with the best royalties and the best, to get it out there. And of course, it's not going to be Amazon
Right.
to do that with. And with it, if you want to do, no matter how you put your book out there, you got to pay for the marketing. You got to get it marketed.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if you don't market your book, it's just going to be out there and nobody's going to know it's there.
Sure.
So whether you do KDP or whether you do it, with hybrid, if you just put it out there and nobody's going to know it's there, you still got to market your book.
Sure.
So you can't expect to upload into KDP one day and then all of a sudden, how come nobody's buying my book?
Right.
But nobody knows it's there. It's like number 1,335 down the line.
Right.
Anyway, so, you still have to collaborate and get your formatting, editing, unless you're an indie author and do everything yourself, the cover and all of that. So when you're writing this latest book, take us to a point that you would probably consider to be your worst author moment in writing this book.
Probably between the two of them. I would say stopping too soon. And I think that's the biggest criticism that I get, texture. And it's because a lot of these things, not every chapter, some of the chapters that probably play out have a little more closure. I leave a lot of things open-ended because there's suggestions at the end of the chapter and I want people to be introspective. But I've had people talk to me about texture, getting people to feel, you can feel in my book, like really getting people to feel and stopping a little bit short. I had a lady that did a book review and she said on the first book, and she goes, you talk around PTSD and moral injury in this whole book and you never say it. And I said, yeah, that was an author screw up. I should have went back and absolutely addressed it. So in the second book, I actually, at the end of the book, I actually talk about moral injury and what it is, because it's kind of the lesser known of the two traumas, right? And so I tried to close that gap with the reader. So yeah, I'd say my biggest stumbling point is stop it too short. A couple extra pages, 1,000 more words. And picking the first publisher I picked. that was not good.
Right. Well, take us to what I would call an epiphany moment. And what I mean by that is you're doing anything except the actual writing of the book. Mm-hmm. You could be driving, you could be shopping, you could be doing, anything from taking a shower to whatever. And all of a sudden, this bright light bulb just bursts in your head with something, man, this has got to go in my book. I need to write it down right now. And you have to do it now, because if you don't, it's going to fade and it won't be the same. Do you have an epiphany moment like that?
Yeah, I think it was the motivation for the whole second book and the title and all of that, because I've been, and I'm working, my consultancy company is working really hard to get civilian employers to understand the veteran and the nuances that go with that, so that we can build environments for veterans. And my experience coming out and being a veteran and going into the workforce, and I'm a nurse, so I'm a nurse. I'm working in healthcare. I'm doing emergency management for healthcare. I'm not doing nursing, but the two are kind of intertwined. We got COVID going on. And in my mind, I kept going over and over and over again. I said, everybody is going too fast. They're making mistakes. They're not seeing what's going on. And how do you get them to slow down? How do you get them to listen? How do you get them to defer to expertise? There was a lot of confusing things that were counterintuitive to 30 years in the military. And as I write in the book, and I'm up on the lake in Canada around my birthday, fishing, the guide says, those storm clouds look bad. We got a long ways back to get to the boat ramp. And we're coming back. His son's driving the boat. We're coming back. And as we turn to go to the boat ramp, I look off to the side. And there was about 40 head of cattle, and every single one of them had crowded around that same little silly tree, and they were all huddled up and they're all laying down. And I laughed, and at that moment it went boom. I said, nobody sees the organizational cows that are lying down, and when they keep running past them, the storms come, they get beat to death by hail, and then they wonder why everybody's bugged out of the institution, because the leadership is missing these things. And so hence, when the cows lie down, and it went all, because it went right back to my farm time, I thought, my goodness, that's the phenomenon. That is the core essence of the message is these cows are lying all over your organizations and nobody sees them because you're going too doggone fast.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to today.
Sure.
What is the one thing that you're the most fired up about or excited about right now today?
Today. Well, I'll give you minutes. I'll give you this minute, not even today.
Today.
I'm fired up about this because it's my passion, and I think I know that I'm in the right space, and you and I had a pre-conversation that alludes to this. Veterans are institutionalized no different than prisoners. And when you're in the institution, when you come out, it does not look like the institution. And the reassimilation is difficult. It's no different than being handicapped in a wheelchair or anything else. And I'm fired up about the fact that we are now getting into training and teaching civilian non-veteran employers how to build an environment where veterans stay, they have a sense of purpose, they have camaraderie, and they can identify with the company on a level that helps them have healthy and a healthy environment that's safe, that helps them reassimilate back into the civilian world. Because 43 out of every 100 veterans quit their job in the first year, and a lot of them don't go back. They end up, their next job is called a bar stool, and that's where they end up. And then all of the other aberrancies that go with that. This is a difficult thing, and I'm fired up about it because this morning my U.S. Congressman is going to meet with me on Friday to discuss this going forward and the programs that I put in place. And I've built some really cool partnerships with Chambers of Commerce to make this happen. And I think it's game changing.
Great. Now, this is Michael T. I invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, then scroll down to the icon of your choice, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey, where you can download and follow us there. Please leave a review. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly video newsletter to get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Okay, we are entering the lightning round. What I mean by that is there's going to be 4 pointed questions for 4 pointed answers. So, before you had become an author, before you wrote your first book, what was holding you back from becoming an author in the first place?
Myself, what I was telling myself. That I had an English teacher that once wrote on my paper that I should go in the military because I'd never make it in college. And that was damaging. And as you know, I did go in the military because I planned on going in the military. And the irony to that is, as you know, is once you go in the military, you're in school constantly. In fact, it might even be harder than college in some ways and aspects. And so you figure that out, and you find out that you're actually a pretty sharp human being, and you go to college and you get that stuff done. But writing, English and writing, and that whole mastery of the thing, I thought, man, I'm terrible with commas and semicolons, and even when I was writing my master's papers, APA format was stuff that I probably burned my APA books when I was done with school. So all of that stuff was fighting against getting started. And finally, somebody, because I'm a storyteller, somebody said, why are you not writing this down? I had been speaking at leadership engagements, and somebody said, this stuff has got to get into a book. People need to be able to hold it, to have it in their hands. And it took one person to say, basically, indirectly, I'm paraphrasing, but just to basically say, not only can you do it, it's going to be great. So you just need to get started. And I thought, okay. And I sat down on the 4th of January of 2022. and I had a published book by 1 June. And once I got the first probably 1,000 words on the page, I thought, just keep going. Don't worry about the commas. There's somebody that can do commas. I knew that. And it just once it started to get on the paper, it flowed. But that's years of telling myself that was something that I wasn't capable of in any way, shape.
Yeah. What was the best advice in writing that you've ever received?
Well, there's some basics, right? Write it all down and don't worry about, perfection at the end. I think is probably the core, the foundational best advice. But the other piece is to if you're stuck or if you aren't sure about, your message or how that's working, is to push all the writing aside and either do some research, put yourself in a situation, or do some level of empathy building with what you're writing about. Put yourself, especially when you're writing about leadership, because we all lead differently. We've all been in different situations. You could give me an example of a good or bad leader that I've never experienced right now, because that's how dynamic it is. But I think that if you're truly going to write, especially if you're going to if you're going to try to make people introspective, use real life stories and compel them to change. So that's a big heavy lift. You have to have a certain level of empathy in your writing. And when you become empathetic to other people's journeys and travels and causes and who they are, you can shape your writing to get your message right.
Yeah, well, this leads back to your last answer too. When you're writing your book and you're worried about commas and you're worried about all that kind of stuff, and not to be, because there's two things you can do: is write drunk, edit sober. Just get it out of your head, put it down, and don't worry about punctuation and sentence structure and commas and colons and all that. Just write drunk, edit sober. And the other thing is, you cannot edit a blank page, right?
Truth.
So you got to get it out there. Now, these two things didn't come from me. Like I said, I've interviewed hundreds of authors, and I glean little things from them here and there.
Yeah.
So I can't take credit for that.
I like that.
So share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Appropriate routine. So I try to tell people, especially in nursing, is staying within my boundaries and consumption. And we're not all perfect at that. Everybody likes a piece of pie from now and then, or whatever it is. Not that pie is bad, but two pieces might not be the right answer. So I believe that if you conduct yourself in a way, you have personal habits on a daily basis that get everything in life. You being a paratrooper, you'll understand this. Get everything in life up to waist height so that you can work on it without breaking your back. Keep a good foundation and reinforce the things that keep your foundation solid. And what you consume, everything from what you read and what you watch and what you eat, if you can just manage those things. So I think that level of clarity, especially with the boundaries, has been what's gotten me where I've been. People want to talk about motivation and drive and all those things, and I think all of us have that. But I think sometimes we get out of bounds and we don't stay aligned well enough to be successful.
Well, why don't you share with our listeners an internet resource that you use when you write?
Well, it depends on where I'm headed with writing. So in some of these stories, I have to, I use the basic, the search engines. But sometimes when I'm stuck, now I was blogging the other day, and I'll give you a better example. And this isn't even a book. I was writing a letter to a group of people in a housing authority, and it needed to compel them. And I wrote it 3 times, Mike, 3 times. And I'm not a bad writer. And I wrote it 3 times, and I read it, and I just said, it is not compelling enough. So this would probably shock you, but I took the whole thing and I threw it into ChatGPT, and all I wrote in there was, take these words and compel the person to take these actions. and it just shifted it just enough, Mike. It didn't rewrite the thing. It used the same words. It just shifted it just enough, added a couple of nuances, softened it a little bit, less directive, more, more collaborative. It softened it just enough. And I thought, they got that monkey off my back. I was struggling with it. I couldn't get to this point. I put the thing in the email and I sent it to everybody. And in 5 minutes, I got an email back from a lady. She goes, "You're exceptionally talented. This is a really well-written email." And I wrote her back, me being me. I wrote her back and I said, full disclosure, I said I couldn't get it figured out. I had to use ChatGPT to do it. So that is one. And I'm not a fan of just typing into ChatGPT. Write me a blog of 1,000 words on, why cows sleep at night. It'll do something, and I guess that works, and whatever. It just compiles stuff from other things. But if you truly have you in it, I'm good with using tools that way. Some of the ability to use even basic things like thesaurus to get the word right, and it just changes the whole nuance of how it is, keeps our reader's attention.
Okay, well, Dave, we're going to enter into the grand finale. And what I'd like you to do is to take your time and tell our listeners about your book.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the cows. That's the most recent book. I think that you've kind of gained a little bit from us talking about how that was inspired. And, people, as I speak to people, I find that people lean in and listen, which is, a poorly used communication skill. I find that people lean in and listen and actually start to listen. They learn to listen, and then they listen to learn, and they get through that whole process, and they actually absorb something that they tangibly can act on based on failure. And so when the cows lie down is not based on failure, but it is based on the fact that we fail at times when we've had all the answers. People want the magic checklist, right? I want to be a good leader. What are the 10 steps to be a good leader? Or I want to be a good author. What are the 10, Mike, what are the 10 things that I need to do to be a good author? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I don't even know what kind of book you're writing. I don't know what you're compelled to do. I don't know what motivated you, all of those type of things. And so the cows is written for leaders to be able to forgive themselves for maybe past missteps, to be introspective enough to be able to make subtle changes immediately, that will put them in a situation where they can see potential problems in their life, in their leadership, in their love, in their relationships, all those type of things, and to just put the brakes on. So, in the book, I cover some things that are important to me that are out there in the world that people don't fully understand, moral injury being one of those. And I write a whole chapter on that. That chapter was actually published in the Air and Space Power Journal last month out of Air University in Maxwell. And so the book is there also to give permission to people to actually say out loud what they're fighting through and struggling with in life, because I'm a big fan, because I've learned this the hard way. I'm a big fan of having life teams, and it's no different than writing a book. You have to have a team. Like you have somebody that you run a chapter by, or you say, "Will you look at this?" or "Will you give me some advice?" or you have a professional author, or somebody that you admire that's written 1,000 books, or somebody in your inner circle that you work with. And this book gives people permission. At the end of each chapter, it gives you permission to let people into your life to make you better, make you happier, make you healthier, and make you more effective at whatever you're doing. If that's being a husband, a father, a mother, a chief executive, whatever it is. And so, there's some combat stories in there, and there's farm stories in there. But the bigger piece of the book is really to give you permission, through introspection, to give you permission to go get help. Most of the things that we need to accomplish as human beings as we try to improve all the way to the last day requires a team, a life team. My first book gives you permission to fire people off your life team, like the people that you think are your friends and your family, and to remove them. And those chapters are right up front. I had people challenge me immediately. They said, "How is your family going to consume this book?" And I said, "What in that book is not true?" And they said, "Nothing." And I said, "Then I don't care how they consume it." I'm talking to my readers so that they have permission to fire people that they think are tenured. And nobody is tenured on your life team. If you don't fit, you're fired. I had a veteran the other day that's really, really struggling. She's been up and down in her life, and she's done some great recovery stuff, but she's not quite there. She called me and she said, Dave, I fired my mother today. And I said, you should have done that probably 2 years ago. She goes, I know. She goes, but my mom's off. She's out. And I said, congratulations. And that is probably going to be the biggest step that she takes. So these books take you to that point. And it's not about mental health struggles, even though, those are some things that I've learned to live with. I own them now. I'm not a victim anymore. I don't let them do that to me. I own them, and I use their energy positively, like writing a book. So that's where that takes you. But there's some fun stuff in there. My family likes reading the books because they can see themselves in the book, or they can actually smell things and feel things. And, I try to do a little bit of that. But really, at the end, most people that have read my books, their number one comment is that they say, I don't keep books around, but this is one that I keep on my desk at work, or I keep next to my chair at home, because I don't need to remember everything that was written in the book. I just need to be able to get back to the chapter that pertains to what's going on in my life. So I think that I think the book is everlasting, because there's nothing in there that's going to change as far as us being human beings in the next 200 years. So that's a good tool.
So it becomes a reference book by then, huh?
Sure enough. A reference book for life. Sure.
Right. So, Dave, we thank you so much for being here with us today, opening up to us, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate this too. Remember, Dave Nordel's book, When the Cows Lie Down, is available on Amazon. Again, this is Michael T. To all our listeners, I would invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, scroll down to the icon of your choice where you can find us on one of your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our weekly video newsletter to get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Until next time, keep reading, learning, and discovering the world through pages of a good book. Book Party Podcast is owned and powered by MTM Legacy Publishing, LLC. This is Michael T. signing off.
You must not miss our next episode as we delve into a world of inspiration, entertainment, and thought-provoking insights. Join Michael T. on the next Book Party Podcast and experience a new adventure, a new story, and a complete immersion into the world of Pages Unveiled, Chronicles of the Writing Journey.